What's up, guys? It's Nabel J. Lee with another edition of the BUZZCast at Buzzworthy Radio. I sat down and spoke with Joel Goldies. He is a dialect coach, and he has done some work with some incredible actors and actresses, one of which is Viola Davis. We talked about that in our show. But it's so interesting to talk about exactly how he trains his talent in order to speak different dialects. And it's one of the things I've always wanted to do myself in my time is learn a different dialect, English to be exact. And that is a bucket list. And we talked about a lot of this in our conversation. And this was a lot of fun. I learned so much, and what an incredible human. And I can't wait to share this with you all. Here it is, our interview with Joel Goldies. Check it out. I just found out because of the fact that we were both invested in 76 Days, the documentary that just premiered at the Santa Barbara International Film Festival. And you are a dialect coach. You've been a dialect coach for over 20 years. You've worked with so many people in this industry, Viola Davis being one of them, who I absolutely adore. I
Me too.
love her profusely. And I just want to know about your techniques because I personally I feel like I'm that guy that could not pick up on anything on how to learn different ways of speaking. There was a show I loved, one in particular, I'll just use this as an example. Love the show to death. I promoted it all the time. I had people on it all the time. When Revenge was on and Josh Bowman was on there and he spoke with an American accent because he's English, he's Brit. And not realizing that until I've seen him in interviews and then I heard him at Paley Fest and then I heard him talk and I realized that, oh, that's not your real accent. So so for me, I just look at it as just so tough. But I feel like from what I understand, you have a way of basically having an actor or anybody who wants to do this differently by training their brains to somewhat they are losing something in order to gain something in order to do this.
Well, I would modify. Thank you. That's pretty close. I appreciate that. I'd say they're gaining something in order to gain something. So I never want to tell my clients that they're speaking the wrong way and I'm going to teach them the right way to speak. Because when you start to introduce judgment, then people get nervous or they feel
Mhm.
like they don't want to try something because they don't want to do it wrong.
Yeah.
So I try to say I'm going to offer them a new accent that they can use in addition to the accent that they grew up speaking with. I was just talking about this with a stand-up comedian client just this morning. He's accustomed to speaking in a certain way, thought that he had to say things very particularly. I'll use this phrase, so to speak. So we all say so to speak.
Yeah.
Um, I told him a story about a longtime client from Brooklyn who worked with a Brooklyn accent. He used to be on MASH, the old CBS TV show, was one of the PA announcers, incoming wounded, all medical personnel
Oh,
report
okay.
to one of these guys, right? Strong Brooklyn accent. He came to me to learn a British accent, which we did. And then he said, well, maybe if I learn a more sort of middle of the road American accent, I'll be able to get more work. And so we set off to do that. We came upon this phrase, so to speak. And he said, I don't have to say so to speak. And I said, no, that would sound way too formal. And it was it was mind blowing. It was a huge revelation for him because he thought it would sound too much like his Brooklyn accent if he said that. So I didn't want to take that away from him because it turns out 20 years later, he calls me and says, I'm auditioning to play a role from Red Hook, Brooklyn, which is where he grew up. And
Uh-huh.
he needed some help actually getting back to his original accent because it had been so long in these other accents, an English accent. We taught him a Chicago accent. He's worked in lots of different accents. So he needed a little help getting back to the Brooklyn sound. But I didn't want to yank that away from him and say, no, you're saying these words wrong. This is the way you say them in Brooklyn. This is the way you say them in an English accent or in a Chicago accent. So it's it's learning where the sounds divide and
Mhm.
learning what to do to create enough of the sound that the audience buys it as an accent from that place. Now, as you say, yeah, it does involve retraining the brain. And I found this is something that I've realized in the last couple of years. We all are blocked from hearing sounds that we don't use in our original accent or language by our brains. And once you can learn to make the new sounds, I use this tool a lot. This is a giant version of it, but it's the vowel chart. This is on my website. Here's more of a life-size version of it. This
Uh-huh.
thing goes into your head sideways. So that if my mouth were bigger, if my head were smaller, that would be appropriate size. No, this is a little bit big still for real life, but that vowel chart shows where a part of the tongue moves to make the sounds that we use for various accents. There's only so many sounds that the human mouth can make. So once someone can be shown how to make the new sounds, then these neural pathways form and allow them to hear themselves making that sound. And that opens up the world of the new accent to them because then they can hear those sounds in native speakers of those accents. So they can imitate what they may not have been able to hear before. And you said you didn't think you'd be able to imitate things. Well, we have to learn to hear the sounds so that we can then make them ourselves and recognize them ourselves. But it happens in a few minutes on each sound. It's quite extraordinary. So and for an audition for an actor, it could take an hour-long session to get them prepped on maybe 5 or 6 pages of sides, pages from a script.
Hmm.
To do it in everyday life, of course, takes a lot more work. And as long as the client is motivated to do that, we can certainly do that. I have people I do that with every day. But one thing that people forget about a movie is that it's a certain limited number of words. And so we can get someone sounding great on those words and sentences and have them sound very authentic and easily understood so that people buy them in that accent. But it's not like they have to do it off the top of their head every day of their life, which is
Yeah,
much more challenging.
of course. It's kind of like when you were talking a few minutes like earlier in that piece, it made me think of your Instagram video that you posted, I think it was yesterday, on the O and the shape on how to say it, and then we have like that extra vowel.
Yeah, we use two vowels. We're I was going to make some crack about Americans like using more vowels than
Yeah.
other cultures because we feel we're entitled to them. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, in a lot of languages, you hear a pure O sound. So in Spanish, you'd say no.
Hmm.
I understand the same would be true in Japanese. In many languages, there's just one vowel used. Oh, I can show this. So if this is it's pretty hard to see, I'm sure, but it's supposed to be a vague suggestion of upper lips and teeth here and lower lips and teeth here. So
Oh, okay.
that thing goes in your mouth like that. So this is just a big giant one. When we say the Spanish version, o, or
Hmm.
French, like in the French word beau, the back of the tongue raises up and back, and the lips round very slightly. Yeah, just checking my orientation here. So we'd say, oh. Can you say that? Like in Spanish, say no.
No.
Exactly. Now, Americans are often accused of mispronouncing foreign languages because we wouldn't hear that that's just one vowel. No, we would say in our American way, no, with the tongue up
No.
and back, then move the back of the tongue slightly up and forward to and round the lips a bit more. So we'd go, no. There's that second vowel.
Yeah.
Ooh. That's called a diphthong, or two vowels. The die part means two, like a pair of dice. And thong comes from the Greek word thongos, which means sounds.
Hmm.
So a diphthong is two vowels that are sounded as one syllable. We say no, go,
Yeah.
oh, snow. So we sound wrong in Spanish if we use those two vowels. But then a lot of people need to learn that in American English, you'd have to add a second vowel. So it's not just no, it's no, no. And then the world kind of opens up once you can start to hear that then people can start to imitate that. And they say, oh, I've been, you can have someone in a place for many, many years not being able to hear and imitate the new accent because their brain blocks them from it.
Yeah.
But once they can be shown how to make the new sounds, then their neurons fall into place. Turns out we're all building 600 or 800 of these a day. And that language learning is a great way to build them. And I think accent learning works the same way. So it changes your brain, changes your hearing, and then you can imitate the new accent.
I feel like because when we're talking about this, it makes me think, is this how with musicians and how they learn music and they are able to just pick up on it by just listening to the music itself? It's incredible to me because I wish I had that kind of ear
Right.
where you can literally just, you don't need to have the music in front of you. You actually are able to pick up on it and then just play it note for note.
Right.
And it sounds like you can do that with this too when it comes to learning languages, if I'm understanding that correctly.
Well, I don't know if that's true. I'm sure there must be some correlation. I have not looked into that, but
Hmm.
I do know that people who are musical, who play an instrument or who sing, and people who have a multiple language background are much more adept at hearing, so they can imitate sounds much more easily. When we're kids, we can all imitate sounds. That's where I started. This was, excuse me, imitating Monty Python sketches when I was a kid. My brother and I bought tons of their albums and memorized them. We had no idea what they were talking about a lot of the time, but I fell in love with all these English accents.
Hmm.
And when we're kids, the language center of the brain is more open to new sounds. So apparently, up until age 3 or 4, those the language center absorbs new input goes straight in as opposed to having to cross hemispheres in the brain, which starts to happen as we get older. So kids are great at imitating.
Yeah.
When I work with child actors, you get to give line readings and you get to demonstrate how something should sound, which you can't do so much with adults. Adults get a little um, prickly, can get a little prickly about that. They don't want to be told how to say a line often, which is totally understandable. But as we get older, we form these habits of listening. So I found oddly that by about age 24, people are pretty locked into what they're hearing. It's
Yeah.
possible to change it. That actor I told you about, he's an older guy. Now I think he's in his 70s. When we worked together, he was in his 60s. But we were able to change things just because he really wanted to do it. And we
Mm,
were able to do it systematically. Those are really the keys to success.
that's amazing. I feel like one of these days I'm gonna have to. I really want to speak properly an English accent. That's a goal I have in life, and hopefully I get the chance to achieve that goal. So we will talk about that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anytime.
That's
It's great. And there are so many English accents because one of the things I've heard is that in past times, villages were separated by about 20 miles, about a day's ride on horseback. So you can have differing accents 2 villages apart. They're 20 miles. So it's not a huge country, but there are a lot of towns and villages. Think of the variation, not to mention socioeconomic level, um, people's base language coming into it. So people coming from other parts of the world to England, um, other parts of the United Kingdom, acting on English with the sounds from their languages. So there's just a treasure trove of languages there, or accents. I do want to make a differentiation
okay.
between um, learning accents of English versus learning languages. A lot of people assume that I know tons of languages. I don't, but
Hmm.
I know how the sounds of those languages affect English. So that's what I've got on these one-page breakdowns. I think it's getting close to 400. I haven't counted in a long time, but um, it's how the sounds of the base language affect English. And then you get into things where, okay, you get someone who's maybe born in Germany, studied in the UK, and
Mhm.
then came to America and has been here for 15 years. How do all those places they've lived, as well as the languages they've been speaking, how do those affect their accent? So that's what I work on. And I use the words accent and dialect interchangeably. That's what we tend to do in the States. Truly, a dialect difference is a word difference. Like in the UK, they might call an elevator a lift. So that would be a
Yeah.
dialect, right?
Or
But we,
how they call their house a flat.
a flat, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So there's tons of those. I think it was George Bernard Shaw or Oscar Wilde who said, we're two cultures separated by a common language.
Yeah.
So there's examples of that.
Those are the perfect ones. I was actually watching Emmerdale yesterday, and for those who don't know what Emmerdale is, it's a British soap.
Oh,
And I was watching that, and as you just said, it's just like there's just these words where I'm just going, okay, so when they say they're going to the movies, they say cinema and
right,
not the movies. So I was
right.
going, okay, there's one thing. And then obviously I knew
Yeah,
about flat. And then I was just
yeah,
like, oh, so there's just like these little nuances, and I'm going like, but I at least know what they're talking about, but it's just so different.
right. Well, thank goodness there's closed captioning now. And if
Also
the
that.
accent is really strong, you can put that on. That's a nice fail safe. I have a longtime client in North Carolina. He's originally from Russia. And in his work, he deals with a lot of Southerners. And he was also working with someone from Minnesota. These people from North Carolina were saying something, something foreign, something, something foreign. This Minnesotan thought they were saying a form to fill out.
Yeah.
In fact, they were saying foreign. So they were shortening that word. So
Yeah.
that's the first time I'd heard about all of us in this huge, giant country separated by a common language. I mean, that's crazy. That Minnesotan asked those Southerners to please change the pronunciation so that he could understand them. Crazy, right?
That's insane.
Right?
Oh my God. And it just makes me think of how we in New Jersey, pronounce water as wooder.
Oh, so if I can hazard a guess, are you in South Jersey?
I am.
Nice. Ah, it's a fantastic accent. Um, how close to Philly are you?
About half an hour.
So are you Hallen? Not as far south as Cowtown,
Oh
but
yeah, a little bit. Maybe
okay.
about 15, 20 minutes away from Cowtown, yes.
No way. Oh, so you're pretty far south.
Yeah.
So Cape May, I understand, was below the Mason-Dixon line, which was the line that was used to delineate the South from the North. So part of New Jersey
Hmm.
is technically Southern in one way of thinking of things. Isn't that crazy?
I mean, that's how we all think of it. I mean, people that's our shtick here. And I say shtick, but it's also that's literally what we think.
Yeah.
And they go, there's North and then there's South Jersey. There's no Central. And I'm like, that's because it's not a thing.
Well, that's interesting because I just met someone a couple of weeks ago and she said she was from Central Jersey.
Yeah,
No,
no. That
no.
that's no, you're northern at that point. It's not
Yeah.
central.
Oh,
No, that's not a thing.
I agree. And I did a film about a year ago where I coached an English actor into what I thought was going to be a North Jersey accent. And we got there, and it turns out that the film was about a couple who owned a diner, a Greek couple, which is very common. I don't know if that's true in South Jersey, but around North Jersey and New York, a lot of diners are owned by Greek families because I think they help each other get the real estate together. There was a diner owner that my actor interviewed that turns out the diners come in three pieces on a truck. So
Oh, yes.
it can you know that kind of diner you see
Yeah.
around Jersey all the time. So then I realized, oh, we don't want to be doing typical North Jersey. We need someone who's of Greek heritage, who probably speaks Greek every day to their family and friends, but who lives in North Jersey. So I had to radically shift the accent in the first about week that we were there. Thank
Uh-huh.
goodness our director is Greek, so they were able to help
Oh, that's good.
a
Yeah.
lot. Yeah. And then my client had to sing a song in Greek. And there were a bunch of Greek people, friends of the director, family of the director, when we shot that scene. And they said, are you Greek to the actor? So I took that as a win.
I was gonna say that is a huge win right there. So that's
Yeah,
good.
yeah. And we just yesterday did an ADR session. So a lot of people don't know this. This is kind of a big secret, but
Hmm.
it's possible to manipulate the audio of a film because it's recorded on separate tracks. Each actor, you hope they don't overlap when they speak, so that every line can be adjusted. So there are places where maybe there was a noise, somebody dropped something when the actor was speaking, or they weren't mic'd quite properly.
Hmm.
So we had to re-record several lines like that. And then I get to pick up some things for accent too, where the accent wasn't present, or there's two speakers of the accent together and they're not quite matching. We can shift things around using the audio. It's called, depending on who you talk to, automated digital recording or automated not dialect, sorry, dialogue replacement. So ADR is done. The actor stands in a recording studio and looks at the film playing that little
Yeah.
clip. The line appears at the bottom of the screen. There's a little slider, and when they're supposed to speak, the two lines come together, or they hear beeps that tell them that when they should speak. It's very technical, but this actor that I'm working with is very good at it. She's the best I've ever worked in ADR with, and I think we've done 10 projects together now. And she can change the performance of what she did on video by
Hmm.
changing just the audio. It's incredible. She's just such a director's eye. She needs to direct a movie. Now I'm going to go ahead and say her name because I they didn't have me sign a non-disclosure. So it's her name is Julia Ormond. She's a great English actor, and we've worked together off and on for uh, about the past 15 years.
Wow.
So yeah, she's incredible, and I'll work with her any day of the week. The same with Viola. Like Viola is just one of these people that just does everything right, and you just it's they're great to be around.
Yeah.
Um, a quick Viola story. One thing I loved, we had a tough shoot in South Africa on The Woman King. Um, we had a COVID shutdown,
Oh gosh.
tough conditions, hot weather. It was summer down there. They brought in all this red dust to make it look like Western Africa, where the story took place.
Hmm.
And hot winds, dry winds blowing in your face. We're all in goggles and covered in red dust all day. We're walking to the set one day. By the way, there's wildebeest and zebra and gazelles. No, springbok, the
Oh,
national animal
okay.
of South Africa, just off to our right, at the set, on this dirt road. And Viola, she's got stunts to do all day. She had a couple of words of dialogue. That's why I was there. Hot day. She's all in her gear. She's all worked out. She's looking amazing. And she says, it's stunt day, heavy action day. She
Hmm.
says, I want to have some laughs today. I want to hear some good stories. I want to have a good time. So it's like the great thing about the best people is they don't take themselves so seriously,
I
and their
agreed.
ego level is just low. So she knew it was going to be a hard day. You don't have to get in a mindset that says, I'm going to be a warrior all day today. No, she's a warrior when she needs to be, the general she was playing in that movie. And when she doesn't need to be, she's just Viola, just having
Yeah.
some laughs. It was great. She's the
Just
best.
just turn it right off. I love it. And then, as you said, ego's kind of checked at the door and everything is just going, let's have some fun. I love hearing stories like that. So thank you for sharing that with me.
Of course.
And you also, when you mentioned about where you were in Africa, you traveled a lot in this glorious earth of ours.
Indeed. I've been
I
very fortunate.
what have been your favorite places that you have been to?
My wife makes fun of me because I come home. I didn't take jobs that would take me away from my children while they were in school. Then I got
Mhm.
an offer to do a job on set with Viola while my youngest was in her senior year of school. So I decided I would do that. It was just 2 months.
Okay.
Um, so I did little bits of traveling. Like I got to go a week in China, which was incredible. But my wife, she used to make fun of me because I'd come home and say, we need to take a vacation to X, everywhere I had just been. So, Vancouver, fantastic. Toronto, great city. Costa
Okay.
Rica, I've been fortunate to be on both coasts and in the middle near Arenal, the volcano there. Hot rivers. You can just lay down in. It's like being in a bath. incredible. It's way southern Mexico. I did this big project last summer. I was only on it for a few weeks, but they shot for 9 months. It's called Washington Black, and it'll be on Hulu sometime this year.
It's gonna be on
It's a,
Hulu. It's for those who don't know, this is also based on the book, and Sterling K. Brown actually not only stars in it, but he executive produced
that's right.
this.
That's right.
Tom Ellis, who is from Lucifer, is one of the stars in this, as well as Rupert Graves. And I I know that they started. This was filming in Nova Scotia, and they
Right.
started filming this not I can't say last year because it's 2024.
No, no, it's
It's 2022.
2023.
Yeah,
Wait, was it 2022?
22.
No, you're right. And they
Yeah.
actually started in Iceland to do some scenes that are supposed to take place at the North Pole, I believe.
Yes.
And then, yep, they were in Nova Scotia for a long time. And that's where I got word from an old friend who was working on it, who said, "Oh, we might need some help." Here's the weird thing. Some of the characters that I worked with were from what's now Benin in West Africa. So
Huh.
that's where the Woman King that I coached with Viola was
Yeah.
set. So this was really strange.
I was gonna
And
say this sounds so surreal for you at this point.
no, it gets more surreal
Oh.
because I can't give away story points, but
No. True.
there's a big coincidence um, where somebody's genealogy from the movie The Woman King may extend. It's possible that that could extend into Washington Black.
Say.
So that's all I'll say. But same accents, generally speaking. It was also, there were characters from the Caribbean. Um, I can't unfortunately say more. I've signed a non-disclosure, but it's coming. Watch for it. It should be great. The novel was great, and it was an experience where there were heavy days on set. And Selwyn Hines, who was the showrunner on that and did the adaptation, um, he they made sure that there were counselors available so that
Okay.
if people were having a hard time with the material that we were doing, and some of it was very rough. Torture involved, slavery, um, lots of very heavy subjects, physical
Wow.
abuse. Yeah, it was very dark. I can't say the thing I was about to say, but other things that could be very traumatizing for people to work on. Anybody who needed it, crew, actors, executive people, all had access to counseling, which was fantastic. They really took good care of us on that show. It was nice. I was sorry I wasn't in for the whole ride from Iceland through Nova Scotia and then all of Mexico, but I got to see beautiful southern Mexico, so that was a huge advantage.
That's great. I love Southern Mexico. When I went there years ago, and I've been saying I need to go back as another excursion. It was, my gosh, it was beautiful. I loved it. I and
I
my
did
and
too.
Toronto and Vancouver are also on my bucket list. I
Oh,
got my passport renewed for that reason.
oh,
I,
good.
yeah,
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
one of the main reasons why I renewed my passport, is because I wanted to. I was actually supposed to go. Oh my gosh. No, this actually was last year. I was like, is it last year? Or was it 2 years ago? No,
Right.
last year.
I gotta check. Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh,
No,
it's
no,
still
it's long.
no. But
Yeah.
yes, no, it was last year, but I didn't get it back in time. So
Um,
I had to miss out on that trip. But
too
now I
bad.
have it. Now it's just like, all right,
Yeah,
when can I go down this year? Because I now have it. It's
that's
definitely
great.
been one of my to-dos, and
Yeah.
just to hear and hear from other people exactly how much they love Toronto and Vancouver. I'm looking more forward to being there. So that's
Yeah.
definitely on my bucket list for
It's
2020.
great. I got to work for 7 years on a Broadway musical that then had a production in Canada, sat down in Toronto, and then went on to have a North American tour and productions in Australia and in London. Come From Away, an amazing musical about when the U.S. airspace was closed on 9/11,
Mm,
and these 38 jet planes were grounded in a tiny town in Gander, Newfoundland, which is as far north and east as you can get on North America. Um, we played in Winnipeg. Now,
Okay.
Winnipeg has a reputation for being cold in the winter, and it was. And we were there in the wintertime. I think it was February. Geez, I can't even remember. But I got tips about how to dress, and then the rivers freeze there. It was mid-January, I remember, because I was looking on the website for the town to see when the rivers had frozen enough that they then you can ice skate on the rivers, and they
Okay.
clear hockey rinks. And then in the town, it's an area called the Forks where the Assiniboine and the Red River meet. They said people have been meeting there for 5,000 years because it's the confluence of these two rivers. They also they build these ice paths that you can skate on at the Forks in the park. They did an ice castle, which I regret I didn't go into. I uh, I rented a snow bike and rode on the snow for a couple of hours, and then I went cross country skiing on a golf course where they groom the paths. It was brilliant, and the show went well too. So
and,
we
and
had
and
good
of course the
previews.
show went well, but
Yeah,
also
yeah, the work part. But
work hard.
it's great when you can get paid to visit a place and there's time to explore it. That's how I usually get very lucky, is that even if it's just one day off a week. I just finished a streaming series that we wrapped up in London for a month. We got shut down during the strikes. We
Oh
were
yeah.
working 6 days a week, but on that day off, I was visiting villages and got to hook up with an old friend who took me to a place he had lived a lot during the pandemic, and out and exploring the countryside because, the saying goes, I'll sleep when I'm dead. You
That
want
is
you
that
want to
is
get out
true.
there. When you're there, you want to get out there and see stuff. So I'm very fortunate in that regard.
I mean, it's for me. While I haven't been across the globe, but I've been across the country, and it's the same for me whenever I'm in a different location. It's that one downtime, and it's just no, I want to see stuff.
I
And
know.
even though I've been in Los Angeles, even though I've been to Los Angeles, oh my gosh, since 2009. Oh yeah, 2009. And been going there at least once a year, if not 2 to 3 times a year. There's always one day that I get to myself, and I'm always going, where have I not been that I need to visit? And that's what I do,
Exactly.
because there's no matter how many times you've been in a certain area, there's always something that you've missed that you want to see. And that's what I do, because I agree with you. I always want to explore. I always want to see new things that I haven't had the chance to do. And
Absolutely.
it's one of the most gratifying things whenever you travel. And even when I travel for work, it's also that same way. It's like if I'm off, I was in Maine for work for 2 weeks. And
Oh,
it was so beautiful when I was just riding through
yeah.
and and just seeing everything. And I drove to Salem on my day off because
All right.
I it was about an hour away from where I was staying. So I just drove to Salem. Never been in Salem before. Got to
Yeah.
explore Salem, and I'm a big Bewitched guy. So of course my goal was to see the Samantha Stevens statue. And
Oh, awesome. I didn't even realize it was there. I drove through there myself. The show I just finished, it started on Cape Cod, and I have some cousins in Maine, and made my way up there. But then on another day, went up to Marblehead, Massachusetts,
uh-huh.
which was lovely, and drove through Salem. Went past the high school, home of the witches. It says that's the
Oh.
school mascot.
Wonder why.
I
But
know.
wonder why. But yeah, no, it was my goal to see this, and I was going like, oh my gosh, I got my picture with the statues. I knew it was there,
Nice.
and then I went into the hotel where they filmed parts of season 7 of the show, and there was all this memorabilia that was on the wall, pictures and autographs that Elizabeth Montgomery and Dick Sargent, who was playing Darren at the time, Darren number 2, they had signed. And they had drinks that were associated with the show that they were doing that when I was there.
Classic.
So that was so cool to see that kind of history when I went there. So that's
Yeah.
another reason why I'm always invested on if I'm ever going somewhere and I get to do something, I want to see something that's like a monument of history. I was in Ohio and I was in Columbus and Cleveland and I went to see the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. There was
Oh,
that.
there you go.
Never got
Yeah.
to see that before until I
Yeah.
started working for where I am now. And then I've never been to New Orleans before until I started working and I got to go to New Orleans. I finally had crawfish. So I was
Wow.
like,
Mhm.
it's just like I love getting the extent of getting to experience new things
Yeah.
because I feel like that's what everybody should get the chance to do. I
Oh,
feel that
absolutely.
just expand, as what's the saying, expand your horizons. I feel like everybody should do that.
Absolutely. My mom used to say, I don't know where she got it from, but she'd say travel is broadening. And that's so true.
I love it.
Yeah, it's so true. Um,
I'm a
we,
foodie. I'm a foodie guy. So
oh,
it's like whenever I travel, I
yeah.
always have to try new food.
Oh,
And
that's good.
it's a big thing for me.
Yeah.
I actually was talking to one of my friends the other day and how we were talking about out I said I had alligator for the first time. That was really good.
Oh, that's good. I
Yeah.
had it only in sausage in Queens, New York, and it was very
Okay.
salty. So it wasn't the
I've
ideal.
heard, yeah,
Yeah.
I've heard that
I'm not the big
depending
meat
on how
eater
you cook
anyway.
it, yes.
Yeah.
But I have heard that that
Uh,
but
I did want to mention we should say that Salem is notorious for a horrible thing that happened there, where women were tortured, mostly women were tortured because people believed that they were witches.
they were
So
witches, yeah.
I was laughing about the fact that it's the high school mascot, but it is a horrible event that happened there for some years. I just don't want to make too much light of that while
Right.
I'm, talking about that. But just to go on to the crawfish, it's funny you say that because my sort of avocation is removing invasive crayfish from the creek near my house, which I've done
Okay.
on a volunteer basis for about 7 years now. I've got about 50 traps. They'll go into the creek again next week because we've had a lot of rain. They get swept away in the rain. But I've taken 177,000 invasive crayfish in the last seven
Wow.
years. Yeah, and I freeze them and then I donate them to wildlife rehabilitators who feed them to orphaned raccoons and possums. So
Hmm.
they're going to, they're not just going in the landfill, which is great, and they're helping out, these critters who are part of the natural ecosystem. So
Absolutely.
yeah, and they're invasive here. They're probably um, deposited in the creeks by fisher people who use them as bait and then didn't want to kill them, or people who had them as pets who thought they were doing the right thing by releasing them into the wild. But they predate on there's a native fish here that's threatened called an arroyo chub, a tiny little fish. And there's little frogs that they eat too that are native here. So now that I'm taking out so many crayfish, the stuff that eats those things naturally is coming back to the creek. So I found an owl that's called a burrowing owl that lives underground. They hadn't
Hmm.
seen one in my county in 50 years and
Wow.
thought that it had been extirpated, that it was gone from
It
this
was
county
gone.
completely. Yeah. We get great blue herons. I've just seen merganser ducks that feed only on fish. So they're at the creek because the environment is the ecosystem being cleaned up. So if anybody wants to get involved with that, they should check out Friends of Oak Park Open Space, a nonprofit I'm on the board of. Uh, and I'm doing a couple of creek walks this weekend to show people the invasive plants and show them how I trap the crayfish, and we'll pick up litter that's come down from the recent rains. So they don't seem to do those programs in school anymore. For me, it was Smokey the Bear and
It was always
give a
what was
hoot, don't
the
pollute.
dog
The
that takes the
dog.
bite out of the crime?
Oh,
McGruff,
the
I think.
gruff, right, right. And Woodsy the owl. I think I'm older than you, so I was bewitched too. But
Was he the owl? Not the owl from no, that's not the owl
that
from
was
Tootsie Roll Pop commercial.
oh no, that was three, one, two,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, anyway, I
Yeah.
don't I don't know if somebody mentioned there is a new mascot for kids not to litter, but it's just so important that people hang on to their stuff because it all ends up in the ocean.
It all
I mean,
ends
that
up in the
was
ocean.
that
Yeah.
was one of the things to go back to 76 days that Stephen had gone through, drifted through that one of those garbage patches on his raft. So that stuff is it all has to end up somewhere.
Right.
So I hope folks will pick up their litter, pick up their dog poop, keep their dogs on leashes. There,
Yes.
I've done my bit.
There is no that I mean, we don't ask for much, y'all. I mean,
No,
that's
no,
really what we ask for.
just take
Just
care of each other.
just
Watch,
take care
watch
of the
out for
earth
each
we
other.
live in. That's it.
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly.
it's funny you mentioned 76 days. Before we hopped on, everybody, we were talking about this on the side, but this is how Joel and I came into each other's orbit is because of that documentary, which I completely and utterly still speak highly of. And I was flashing back to the interview that I did with Joe Ween and Patrick Stump, and there was a comment that we had made about how Stephen Callahan was talking about while he was being in the raft and how he was in this raft for 76 days, and just the shark just coming right underneath it, and we were just sitting there just going, yeah, he was just so just blasé about it, just going like, yeah, there's a shark that just came under my raft. I'm going, bro, there's a shark that just came under your raft. I'm like, why are you calm?
That was perfect. You just said the same line in two exactly different ways. That was so fantastic. That's a great example of stuff that I'm trying to teach my people every day.
Because it's true.
Yeah, it all depends on what your frame of mind is, doesn't it? It's like
Yeah.
he was relaxed. He knew that that shark was not a threat to him unless he was maybe in the water. But as long as he kept that patch working in his raft, he was not
I
going to end
know.
up in the water.
And it's funny, he even said that in the film where he made friends with the ocean. So I guess in essence, when we think about it, that's probably why the shark didn't bother him. But I think
That's a great
it's
point.
just it was just very interesting how there was so many bits and pieces and nuances that that we picked up from this film that most probably never would have picked up on.
No,
I even said myself, I don't think I would have been that smart enough to figure out how, because the spear got broken, how else was I going to use this and what I was going to do in order to spearfish.
right.
I wouldn't have known about the thing with the water. And notice I said water and not water.
But
um,
they're both good. They both work.
they both work.
Yeah,
But
depending on where you are.
that's right.
Yeah,
I never knew about how, in essence, I'll say it this way, filtering the salt out of the water, even
right.
though obviously there's still going to be salt in there, but I still didn't know that process of how to do that.
No,
I, it's just, there was just a lot where I felt that if that were me, there was no way I probably would have been able to survive that for
yeah,
76 days or even 2 days
yeah,
because no matter how much Steven, it felt like he was about to give up, there was always something there that caused him to basically re-energize and was like, snap of the fingers, he's like right back
absolutely.
into it. And
Yeah.
he was just as stronger as he ever was before.
Well, yes, and the fact that he got to know those fish, those Dorado that were around his boat through his whole journey across the Atlantic, and it was ultimately those Dorado that helped him survive. I'm
Yeah.
just going to leave it at that, so I don't give it away. But as you're saying, being in tune with the earth really paid off for him. And that's such a beautiful message um, of the book when I read it years ago. And that's, I think, why it stayed with me. And I hadn't really remembered that. I just knew it had a deep impact on me. But then to see it so beautifully laid out in Joe's movie, to see Stephen's story told so well, it just, yeah, brought that home for me. And it encouraged me, to keep doing the work that I'm doing with the crayfish and invasive plants and just trying to help people understand that we need to take care of this earth. Because as I said I saw on a sticker the other day, there's no planet B,
Mm,
no planet B, no plan B.
there's no
Uh,
plan. Yeah, I like
yeah,
that.
right.
I was thinking of another saying. I might have it wrong, but I know there was a saying where they said there's only one Earth that we're all living in. Take care of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
And
it's all the same message. It's like,
it's literally the same thing. Yeah.
yeah, we need to learn. I mean, our climate has definitely changed.
Yes.
We had 12 and a half inches of rain in about 6 days in my backyard in Southern California.
I was
And
wondering how was that for you because I've seen pictures from people in California when
yeah,
that rain hit, and I was just like, "That's a bad rain." We don't
yeah.
even get that bad of a rain here where we are, but
No, we've had all our rainfall for the year already. So it's
yeah,
about 13 plus inches we're supposed to get every year. We've had it all already. I'm very fortunate. We live on a hill, so it's not a sliding hill, thank goodness.
yeah, right.
Um, and neighbors on both sides of us on our street had flooding in their backyards because so much rain was coming down that their drains to the street just couldn't manage all the rain. So I'm not sure any water came in anybody's house, but it threatened to, and it was a dire situation because we didn't know when that rain was going to stop. So I got very lucky. I'm very fortunate to live where I do. Um, Other people around were not so lucky, and some
Yeah,
people lost their lives in this event. So
yeah,
we as a country, as a culture, need to get better at preparing for this weather that's certainly coming. They say that's what climate change is going to bring is more rain to California. So we need to get ready. It's happening, but it needs to there there's more that needs to be done.
yeah. We have to continue to do better,
Yeah.
and hopefully going forward, we will take all the necessary needs and precautions in order to prepare for that. But as you just said, and as many others have said as well, we're not there yet.
No, not nearly.
Not even close to it. But
No.
I'm glad that you are okay. I'm glad that everything in your home is okay. But
Thank
it
you.
was definitely something that I will say that when I saw pictures, it was very terrifying. And I not to put too much of a damper on the conversation, but I do want to say that I have been viewing and I have lots of friends in Los Angeles and when I did see the photographs and I did hear about people who have lost their lives, I just immediately was just going, I hope everybody's okay.
Yeah,
And because it was very terrifying. It was terrifying to look at.
absolutely.
But
Well,
but I just want to say that I'm just glad that you were able to not much damage was done. Let's say it that way.
yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you. And, I was on Cape Cod. We were working on this project this last summer, and I went to go visit friends on mainland Massachusetts, and they showed me this spit of land that goes into the ocean, and every house on that spit had been raised because that's a tidal uh, beach. I can't remember the name for it, but in high tides, the storm surge has come into the houses there. So they had to raise them all one story, and they can't put habitable space. You can't live on the ground floor there. It has to be only for a garage or something because they know water's going to come through there.
Right.
So they're adapting. I just heard that 95% of the water that flows down the San Gabriel River here in Southern California
Yeah.
was captured to go into settling ponds to go back into the aquifer so it can be used for drinking water.
Drinking
And
water. Yeah.
now they're gathering 50% from the LA River. So it's happening, but we all have to do more.
We have to do when we can say that even here for where I am, that our township had a meeting because the town next over from where I am, the water they can't drink because it's contaminated. And they're even trying to say that bottled water, we can't even drink the bottled water. And I'm going, oh no.
No.
And so
Yeah.
I will just say that it's trying, but as you said, we got to do better,
Yeah.
and hopefully that happens sooner rather than later. But it's interesting that you brought that up because it really just made me think of that of what happened yesterday, and I'm just going, that's insane that you're not just experiencing that, but we are here on the East Coast, so
Right. Right.
it's very interesting how so much can be put into perspective like that. So
Yeah. Yeah.
um, but yeah, we got to do better. But I want you to come back once Washington Black appears on Hulu. I would love to have you back and get to talk about that some more. That'd be huge.
Yeah, I would love to. That'd be great. That was a great experience. So yeah, I'd be very glad to come back. Thank you.
Absolutely. The door is open. Heck, you can come back even before that comes on, but
Oh,
definitely,
outstanding.
but we definitely want you back and when that does premiere. So absolutely, the door is always open. We love to have you. This was great. The pleasure was all mine. Thank you so much for being here and
Oh,
reaching out and being a part of this episode today.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Nova.
Many thanks to Joel Goldies for stopping by the BuzzCast today. If you want to follow him on all his socials, you can log on to our website at buzzworthyradiocast.com. All the information is right there for you. Give him a follow. He has some great material. Now, if you want to keep getting the latest buzz with us at Buzzworthy Radio, once again, our website is buzzworthyradiocast.com. We're also on X at Buzzworthy Radio and on Facebook. Give us a like. And we are on iHeartRadio and Amazon Music, so you can download our podcast from there. I'm Novell J. Lee, and see you guys next time.